Okay, so here we are. We're starting the Relearn packet, and I just want to remind you that whenever you do the Relearn packet, you have to watch the video before you can do anything else. You watch the video. I'm going to explain what I see kids do wrong, what I see them do right, where I think you can possibly improve. And then once you're done watching the video, you then do part B. And once you're done with part B, you cannot do part C until you show me part B. And I check it off and make sure that it's right. And then once it's right, and we know it's right, then you can go back and do part C. All right, so we're taking a look at these questions here. And I'm trying to get to the same points repeatedly from the first Relearn packet to now the second. And what I'm looking for on number one is that you understand that number one means that you have to square the 7 first, then negate it. There's a big difference between number one and number three. Number three means -3 times -3, which is +9. Remember, when I multiply by a negative, I have to change the first sign to positive. And 3 times 3 is 9. The problem is, if I look at number one, this means something very different because there's no parentheses. With parentheses would mean -7 times -7. Without parentheses, this means square the 7. 7 squared is 49. 7 times 7. Then negate it. So the answer to number one is -49. The answer to number two, anything to the 0 power is 1. Then number three we just did. It means -3 times -3 because of the parentheses. That's the big difference in number one, and that's what's so important to recognize. And that answer is 9. Now number four kind of puts some of these ideas together and introduces a new idea. Anything to the 0 is 1. So 19 to the 0 is 1. A negative exponent, that means reciprocal. So that's 1 over 3 squared. 3 squared is not 6. That's one of the mistakes I see kids make sometimes. 3 squared does not mean 3 times 2. It means use a base of 3 twice. 3 times 3 is 9. So this is 1 and 1/9. Okay? Now we go on to number 5. Number 5 says you have 5n squareds and a -2n squareds. What do you have altogether? You could also look at it as 5n squareds minus 2n squareds. Now think about this for a minute. If you had 5 pencils minus 2 pencils, it would be 3 pencils. If you had 5 strawberry milks minus 2 strawberry milks, it would be 3 strawberry milks. If I had 5 baseball cards minus 2 baseball cards, it'd be 3 baseball cards. So if I have 5 things called n squareds and I subtract 2 things called n squareds, I get 3n squareds. Now a common mistake here, some kids wrote 3n to the 4th. It's not n to the 4th. If I was multiplying, then I change exponents. When I add and subtract, whatever I add or subtract always stays the same. When I did pencils and pencils, I got pencils. When I did strawberry milks and strawberry milks, I didn't get chocolate milks. I didn't get white milks. I got strawberry milks. So likewise, if I'm going to have 5n squareds and -2n squareds, I'm going to get 3n squareds. Number 6, d to the 4th to the 3rd. There are 2 ways to remember this. The first is when I raise a power to a power, I multiply. D to the 12th. Ultimately, that's the way we would like everybody to remember this. But in the beginning, it might help to remember that the cube means to use it as a factor 3 times. So some kids want to write d to the 4th times d to the 4th times d to the 4th. The only hitch here is 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12. There were at least 2, maybe 3 kids who on the test literally wrote d to the 4th times d to the 4th times d to the 4th, or I think on the test it was actually d to the 3rd, and they stopped there. They didn't go that next step and add those exponents. Okay, so d, that looks like d squared. It's not d squared, it's d to the 12th. All right, and the next one, danger, danger, danger. I have to square everything in the parentheses. So 5 squared is 25, not 10. And then x to the 4th squared is x to the 8th. Now the other way to do this would be to do 5x to the 4th times 5x to the 4th. 5 times 5 multiplying coefficients is 25. And exponents, x to the 8th. Okay? So either of these, if you notice, they come out to 25x to the 8th. And the last part here is Again, multiplying coefficients, adding exponents. 7 times 3 is 21. Add the exponents. 4 and 5 make 9. And there's really a 1 on that m. Don't forget about that. M to the third. Sometimes kids forget about this 1 over here. And then they just write m to the second. The m to the 1 should be there. 21, n to the ninth, m to the third. And last but not least, I'm dividing. So now I divide coefficients. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And subtract exponents next to the third. Divide coefficients. Coefficients are the number in front. Subtract exponents. 5 minus 2 is 3. Okay, so there's the part 1 answers. And remember, you were supposed to write all this down in your book. If you come up to me and you ask me to look at your work and you don't have this material copied down, then I'm not going to accept it. So if you didn't copy it down, go back, do it again. Make sure all of this work is shown. And now that we're done with part A, you should go to part B. Get part B done. They're exactly like part A. And then do not do part C until you show me part B. All right? So there's the first section of the test. We're getting better, but we need to be better yet.